Welcome. This video is going to cover the Chapter 3 challenges for the textbook Prelude to Programming. It's going to look at the Raptor programs for Chapter 3. So let's get started. The Chapter 3, there's 5 challenges in Chapter 3. The first one is to prompt for and input a salesperson's sales for the month in dollars and their commission rate as a percentage. You want to output that commission for the month. And then note that you're going to need to convert the percentage to a decimal. So what we're going to need on this are 3 variables. We're going to need sales amount, commission rate, and commission earned. We're also going to need the following formula. For commission earned, it's going to equal sales amount times commission rate divided by 100, and that will get us our percentage into a decimal. So let's take a look at this. What we're going to do is first we'll output to the user. We're going to say this program will calculate the commission of a salesperson based on their sales for the month and their commission rate. That's an output box. So we drag an output box. Onto there, and then we put that in there. So I'm going to delete that back out. And then we're going to do an input from the user. We're going to ask the user to enter the sales. And let me go ahead and open that up here. We're going to say enter the sales amount for this month. Do not include the $sign. And you might say enter the sales amount without decimals or anything like that. You can just say enter a whole amount, but for this exercise, this one will work. Then we're going to ask the user to put in the commission rate for the salesperson as a percentage, and we're going to say for 20%, put in 20 for 20%. Don't put in a decimal point, and that's going to then set the commission rate. This one set the sales amount. This one's going to set the commission rate, and then we're going to do an assignment. This assignment is going to take and set commission earned based on what the sales amount is, and that was in from the user, and the commission rate divided by 100, which will give us the decimal. So it's going to take the commission rate divided by 100 times the sales amount, and that will set the commission earned. And then we're going to output that to the user so that the user sees what it is, and it's going to say this salesperson earned dollar amount plus commission earned plus this month. So it's going to go and find the commission earned. And this, in my example that I've already run here, you'll see that they earned 200. But let's run this again real quick. It's going to start the program. It's going to output to the user this program. It's going to ask how much the sales amount was for the month, and let's do 1,000. It's going to ask what the percentage was. Let's do 10%. Click OK. And it's going to calculate that, and then it's going to output our information to us, and it's going to say this salesperson earned $100 a month. The second challenge in Chapter 3 is the manager of the supermarket would like to be able to compute the unit price for products sold there. To do this, the program should input the name and price of an item per pound and its weight in pounds and ounces. So we have to calculate pounds and ounces. Then it should determine and display the unit price, the price per ounce of that item, and the total cost of the amount purchased. And we're going to need these variables. We're going to need item name. We're going to need pounds. We're going to need ounces. We're going to need pound price, total price, and unit price. And then we're going to need these formulas. Unit price is going to equal pound price divided by 16, because that's going to put everything into an equal calculation for us, because we can't calculate pounds and ounces. So we have to put everything into a common denominator. And the total price is going to equal pound price times pounds plus ounces divided by 16, which gives us all pounds to ounces. So let's take a look at what we're going to build here. Now in this one, we're going to do a call to a variable subnet here. So we're going to our subchart. So we're going to have our main subchart, and then we're going to have a subchart called variables. To create a subchart, we just right mouse click and add subchart. And in this case, we call this one variables. And this call is going to be, we're going to put a call in, and we're going to call it variables, and it's going to call over here to this subchart, and we're going to put all of our variables in. And these are the ones that we talked about. We need to have item name, pound price, pounds, total price, ounces, and unit price. And we're going to put all of those into the variable here. So the program is going to call over here. It's going to put all this information in. It's going to set the item name to blank, pound price to 0, pounds to 0, ounces to 0, unit price to 0, and total price to 0. So you would just drag your assignment onto over here to each one of those, and you would just double click in there and put your item name in, put a quote with a space in there for that one. Pound price, we type in pound price and put in 0, or whatever, P price if you want it to be, P and D price if you want it to be P and D price, but you have to have the right calculation back on the main for that if you do change this. pounds is set to 0, ounces, unit price, and total price. And then the program is going to come back out here. We're going to output to the user, and we're going to tell the user what this program is doing, that it's programming is calculating the unit price, what we just talked about. Then we're going to ask for input from the user. We're going to say enter the name of the item. So we're going to set the item name based on what the user put in. We're then going to ask the user, and I'm going to scroll down here, to enter the cost of this item per pound as a number without a dollar sign. So we're telling them to put in a whole number without a dollar sign, and we're going to set pound price to whatever that amount is. And then we're going to ask the user to enter the number of pounds purchased as a whole number, and I'm going to go ahead and open up here. So we put our text up here. We set our variable down here for pounds. We do that for each one of these. And then we're going to ask for one more, and we're going to say enter the number of ounces. So we have to set pounds and ounces. And then we're going to do some assignments here. We have to do some calculations. We've set some of our variables, but now we have to set unit price. And we're going to say our unit price is equal to pound price divided by 16. 16 ounces in a pound, and that gives us our amount. And then the next one, and these are also coming from over here on our formulas. See, our unit price is equal to pound price divided by 16. This one is total price equals pound price times pounds plus ounces divided by 16, and that would look like that in the box, in the statement. Then we're going to output to the user product item name. So we're going to say, what's the product item name? And in this case, we'll say eggs. Price per pound was whatever the price per pound was from our variable. Unit price, whatever that calculation was, or whatever that was input. And then we're going to say the unit price, and let me show you these on the calculation here. So we're just saying price per pound, and we're putting our quotes here. Price per pound is our text that gets output, and then we're saying plus the variable of pound price. And on the next one, it's the same way. We say unit price in quotes. Let me just put it over here on the left-hand side. It's a little bit easier to see. So we just say unit price in quotes, which is our text, and then it's saying then take the variable of unit price and then put that in between unit price and per ounce. And then we're going to say you bought, and we're going to say how many pounds they bought, how many ounces they bought, and then we're going to say the total price for this purchase is in whatever that calculation was. So let's do a step through on this one. We're going to step through. It's going to first go to variables. It's going to kick over to the subchart of variables. And I'm going to go through rather quickly on this here. It's going to set all of these as we see in our watch box there. Item name, ounces, pound price, pounds, total price, and unit price. And then it's going to come back over to our main menu. It's going to put out to the user what it's doing. It's going to ask us the name of the item. And on this one, let's just call this milk. Oh, actually, milk, let's not do it. Let's do eggs. Let's do eggs. And we're going to say enter the cost of the item per pound. And let's say that it's $1 per pound. In this case, we're not selling them by the dozen. We're going to sell them by the pound. And so we're going to say, let's say that they're $1 a pound. And enter the number of ounces purchased as a whole number. Enter the number of ounces, and let's just say we purchased 64 ounces of eggs. Now, eggs normally aren't sold in that kind of denomination, but for sake of the program here, we're going to do eggs at 64. And then we're going to say enter the number of ounces. So 64 pounds, that's a lot of eggs. Enter the number of ounces for a portion of the pound, and then the pounds, and now we're going to get ounces. Let's say we're going to do 10 ounces. And unit per price, this is going to do a calculation. So this is where it's going to calculate our unit price. It's going to take pound price of 1 divided by 16. So now our unit price is 0.06250, and that's going to be used in our calculation. It's now going to set our total price as our ounces and pounds times unit price is our total price of 64.6250. Now it's going to output to the user product of eggs. Price per pound is $1. Unit price is 0.06250. We're not rounding up the decimal points, so this is going full decimal places here, which would normally be like 0.06. And you bought 64 pounds and 10 ounces of eggs, and our total price is $64.62. Well, it'd be rounded up to 63 cents, but then that ends the program. Challenge 3 for Chapter 3. The owners of the supermarket would like to have a program that computes the monthly gross pay of their employees as well as the employees' net pay. The input for this program is an employee ID, hourly rate of pay, and number of regular and overtime hours worked. Gross pay is the sum of the wages earned from regular hours and overtime hours. Overtime is paid at 1.5 times the regular rate. Net pay is the gross pay minus deductions. And you want to assume the deductions are taken for tax withholding, which is 30% of gross pay, and parking is $10 a month. Now we're going to need these following variables. We're going to need to set up an employee ID, hourly rate, regular hours, overtime hours, gross pay, our tax amount, our parking amount, and our net pay. And we're going to be using these formulas here. For our gross pay, that's going to be regular hours times hourly rate plus overtime hours times our hourly rate times 1.5 because we have to give our overtime hours. So we have whatever overtime hours are calculated at whatever our hourly rate is times 1.5, and our regular hours are just times hourly rate. And then net pay is our gross pay minus any tax. So we're gonna calculate our tax right here. So gross pay is times tax minus parking, and that'll be our formula there. So let's take a look at this program and how it's laid out. Same thing we've done in the challenge number 2. We're going to set our variables on another subchart here. We're going to set all of our variables up that we needed to have, our employee ID, and we're going to zero all of these out except for our tax amount and our parking. So our employee ID, we're going to set up to 0, hourly rate, regular hours, overtime hours, gross pay, taxes it's set at 0.3 because we're going ahead and saying that's a percentage, so that's 0.3, and our parking is 10. And our net pay is 0, and we'll zero that out, and then we'll do our calculation on that. Our main here is we're going to tell our user what the program is doing, so I'm not going to show you that again. That's just doing a basic output. And then we're going to do an output here that we're explaining to the user. Regular deductions include a $10 parking fee, and taxes computed at 30% of gross pay, which is our 0.3 on our variable. Overtime is calculated at 1.5. And then we're going to ask the user to put in some information. First, we're going to enter the employee's ID number. So we're going to say get the employee ID number and set that for employee ID. Then we're going to enter the number of regular hours worked this month without a $sign, and we're going to set that variable to regular hours or reg hours. Then enter the number of overtime hours worked this month without a $sign. We're going to set that to overtime hours. And then we're going to enter the hourly rate of pay for this employee with no $signs, and we'll set that to hourly rate. And then we're going to do some calculations here. And these are our formulas that we pulled from over here. So if we pull up over here, this is what they're going to look like inside of Raptor. Regular hours times hourly rate plus overtime hours times hourly rate times 1.5. So that's what they'll look like. And we're going to say set the variable of gross pay to that calculation. Then we're going to set our net pay, and that's based on our formula. Gross pay is minus gross pay times tax minus parking. And then we'll output to the user. We're going to say your employee and employee ID has a gross pay of whatever the gross pay variable is, and then put net pay as the net pay. So let's walk through this. Let's step by step. So it's going to go to variables. It's going to set all of our variables here. We're going to set all those, and then we'll take a look at those on the left here. So employee ID, gross pay, all of that set. Tax is 0.3. And now it's going to ask us for or it's going to tell us what the program's doing. Then it's going to ask us for our employee ID number. It's going to say enter the number of regular hours worked. So regular hours. So let's just say they worked 40 hours. Ooh, let's do the step there. So we're going to say they worked 40 hours. And then we're going to enter the number of overtime hours. And let's say they worked 5 hours of overtime. And now we have to enter our hourly rate. So let's say our hourly rate is $15. With no $signs. Then we're going to do our calculations based on this information that we've given the program. It can calculate now. So it's going to calculate, it's going to set the gross pay based on this formula here. So it's going to say our gross pay is 712.50. And then it's going to say net pay is gross pay minus gross pay. Gross pay is minus, or net pay is gross pay minus gross pay times the tax minus parking. So we have to set our gross pay, or our net pay. Here's our net pay right there, $488,750, because that's our amount that we subtracted our parking from and we subtracted our tax from. And then we're going to output to the user our employee ID, our gross pay, $712.5, and our net pay of $488.75. Challenge number 4 for Chapter 3. Shannon and Jasmine bowl as a team, and each of them bowls 3 games in a tournament. They would like to know their individual averages for their 3 games and the team average. So they're going to calculate their averages individually and their averages for a team, which is would be 6 scores total. So you're going to allow the user to input the scores of each player. So they're going to bowl 3 games each, and then you're going to output Shannon's average, Jasmine's average, and the team's average. So we're going to do some calculations here on averages. We're going to need these variables here: score 1, 2, and 3, average of Jasmine, average of Shannon, sum of Shannon and sum of Jasmine, and then the team average. And then we're also going to need these formulas here. We're going to need the team average is going to be equal to the average of Shannon and the average of Jasmine divided by 2. If we added a third person, we would need to add an average and a sum of that person, and then we would need to change this calculation to 3. But in this case, we're just going to do 2. So we're going to set up our program here. We're going to set our variables here. Now, you could have set all of these variables on another subchart. You could have created a subchart here and put all these variables over there like we did on the previous challenges. But for this one, we're just going to leave it on the main line here. So we're going to set our score 1, score 2, and score 3. Now notice I didn't say scores for Shannon and Jasmine. What we're going to do is we're going to enter one user in, and then we're going to clear it. We're going to calculate that, and then we're going to clear it, and then do the next user, and then add that in when we get down here. So we're going to set our sum of Shannon, sum of Jasmine, average of Shannon, average of Jasmine, and these are just simply just, we're just setting the variables here with a statement, with an assignment. And then we're going to ask the users to enter Shannon's score first. So we're going to take Shannon's score, and we're going to set score 1, score 2, and score 3 for Shannon's. And then we're going to set sum of Shannon. So we need to take those 3 scores and do a calculation on them. And that's going to be score 1, score 2, and score 3. And then that will set the variable of sum Shannon to that amount. And then we're going to say the average of Shannon is the sum of Shannon divided by 3 because there's 3 scores. Then we're going to come back through and we're going to enter Jasmine's score, but this is going to clear out Shannon's score because now Jasmine's scores are going to override these. And we're going to do the exact same thing with Jasmine's that we did above. So you're just going to repeat these 3 boxes, but with Jasmine's name, and you're going to repeat these calculations again. You're going to, except now we're going to say sum of Jasmine is score 1, 2, and 3. Average of Jasmine is the sum of Jasmine divided by 3. And then we get down to the team average. We're going to take whatever the calculation of average of Shannon was and the calculation of average Jasmine, and we're going to divide it by 2, and that'll be our team average. And then we'll output that information to the user. So let's walk through this. So we're going to set all of our variables. I'm going to go through those pretty quickly here. So we've set all of our information here on our watch area. Now we're going to enter Shannon's first score, and let's say a 150. The next score, 175. Next score, 125. So that gives us 3 scores. And then we're going to come in and we're going to set sum of Shannon to what those 3 scores were. So we're going to add those 3 scores together. And now our sum of Shannon is stored in memory. And then we're going to enter our next set of scores. So we're going to say 225, 125, and 175. I'm just making up numbers here. And then we're going to do the same thing here with the sum of Jasmine. We're going to set those 3 scores and set the sum. There we go. And now we're going to set the team average based on those two averages, average of Shannon and average of Jasmine. And we're going to divide those by 2 to get our team average, which is 162.5. And then we're going to put all that information out to the user. Shannon's average, Jasmine's average, and the team average. And there you have it. That's challenge number 4. Challenge number 5, Kim wants to buy a car, and we're going to help Kim compute the monthly payment on a loan, given the loan amount, the annual percentage rate of interest, and the number of monthly payments. The program should allow Kim to input the loan amount, interest rate, and how many payments she wants to make. And we're also going to compute and display the monthly payment. So this one's a difficult one to wrap your head around at first, but if you just break it down into pieces, that we just have to look at our word problem here and say that we need a payment, we need a loan amount, we need an interest rate, we need a monthly rate, and we need the number of months. And it gives us our formulas here. Our monthly rate is equal our interest rate divided by 1,200. And when the user enters interest rate as a percentage, it must be divided by 100 to make it a decimal. And the formula given above combines the two steps. So we're combining these two steps up here, the interest rate and percentage. So the formula given above combines the two steps. Annual rate of 18% equals 18 divided by 100 equals 0.18. And the monthly rate is 0.18 divided by 12. So it'd be 0.015 or 18 divided by 100 times 12. And that would equal the 18 divided by 1200. Okay, so we're going to set our variables over on the subchart. We're going to have our payment, our loan amount, our interest rate, our monthly rate, our number of months. And then we're going to output to the user what we're doing. Then we're going to ask the user to enter the loan amount and set the variable of loan amount. Then we're going to enter the annual percentage rate as a percentage. So we're going to say for 20, enter 20, and that sets our interest rate. And then we're going to enter the number of monthly payments to be made. That sets number of months. And then here we're going to do a calculation, and we're going to say the monthly rate should be the interest rate, whatever the interest rate was, divided by 1200. And then we're going to output, and we're going to say for the loan amount of whatever the loan amount is to be paid over how many months, and the monthly payment will be whatever that payment is. So this is our key here on the formula there. So let's step through this. We're going to set all of our variables. And we're going to say this program will calculate the monthly amount. So it outputs that. We're going to say enter the loan amount. So we're going to get our loan amount, and let's say we're going to do $15,000. And we're going to enter our annual percentage rate, and let's say we're going to do 12%. So 12. And it set our interest rate at 12. And we're going to enter the number of monthly payments. And this would, let's just say we're going to do 36. And now we're going to set our monthly rate is our interest rate divided by 1200. So 0.01, that sets our monthly rate. And now we're going to do our next calculation and our payment. It set our payment based on our loan amount, based on our monthly rate, based on the 1 plus the monthly rate. So this is your loan calculation that you would have that they give you in the textbook. And that's what you put it into your calculation field there, your assignment. And then it outputs to the user that we have a loan of $15,000 to be paid over 36 months. The monthly payment will be $498.21. All right, so that was Chapter 3, Challenge Problems for the textbook Prelude to Programming. I hope this was helpful. And if you have any questions, you can leave a comment below. If you're one of my students, make sure that you email me. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe and be excellent to each other.